Now, we are going to talk about Beowulf in its literary context. But we won't be doing literary criticism here. Therefore, what we are going to do now is to read this poem and find the topic that best speaks about it. We will pinpoint by reading through this very long epic poem what it actually talks about. This analysis is applied to the translation of Beowulf by Seamus Heaney. The first and the most prominent characteristic of this epic poem that we propose is the value of Christianity. If you have watched our previous video, you must remember how Beowulf contributed in the society. With the existence of Beowulf, the society's reception towards Christianization, which were happening around that time when Beowulf was predicted to have been written, would have varied according to the method of narrating the hero's story. Vary here means it could have been different had not it been done with the assistance of the poem. So, with that said, this is the analysis. Medium. Mission of Christianization. The purpose of the poem is to promote a religion. We have proposed that Beowulf was used as means of fulfilling Christianization mission and was spread or narrated by a clergyman. How is that so? This is how it proceeds. The other supporting fact, aside from the spread of the religion that was actually happening at that period of time, is the content of the poem itself. The most prominent indicator of the poem's Christian values is the repetitive references of the religious pronouns of monotheist God, such as the Almighty, Lord of Life, Divine Lord, and the Heavenly Shepherd. Here, the Heavenly Shepherd is indubitably a direct reference to Christ. The presupposition that the story was popularized by a clergyman thus becomes more likely, because it parallels the content, which has many values of goodness that can be taught. Now, what are the points directing to the science of this poem being a medium of Christianization? Here they are. The direct reference to God. King Hrothgar's wife showed her gratitude and belief towards God. She also showed from her utterances or her action how after all this time of prayers, they were in the end being granted, as in line 6-5 to 6-7. She welcomed the gift and thanked God for granting her wish that a deliverer she could believe in would arrive. Next, at night, when Beowulf and his men were about to battle with Grendel, the narrator said how the hero believed in his own strength and the god, as in line 669 to 670. And the kid placed complete trust in his strength of limb and the Lord's favor. Also in line 682 to 687. And may the Divine Lord, in his wisdom, grant victory to whichever side he sees fit, Beowulf himself declared his complete trust to his god, that the god may choose whoever he chose to win. This part of the story indicates the value that the hero teaches to the audience. The quality of faithfulness to the providence is an exemplary attitude of a good person and also a heroic person. After this, the story also presents another good example through the character King Hrothgar. Here, Hrothgar is presented as a devout king. The poem also narrates the character Hrothgar using good adjectives, and he is also presented as a good king. Again, a good example in this religion. Next, in line 700 to 702, the truth is clear. Almighty God rules over mankind and always has. Villains. First of all, the most noticeable indicator of the story's biblical nature is that the poem presents the villains as related to Cain. The poem tells Grendel and his mother as the descendants of Cain. As in line 102, Grendel was the name of this grim demon, haunting the marshes, marauding round the heath and the desolate fens. He had dwelt for a time in misery among the banished monsters, Cain's clan, whom the Creator had outlawed and condemned as outcasts for the killing of Abel. The direct reference to Cain shows the nature of this evil. At least in this translation, we can see how the atmosphere of the happenings in the poem is closely identifiable with the Bible. There shouldn't have been any connection between the banishment of Cain and the monster Grendel. On close reading of line 108 to 114, we can see the irrelevance. The Eternal Lord had exacted a price. Cain got no good from committing that murder, because the Almighty made him anathema, and all of the curse of his exile there sprang. However, the act of mentioning the story of Cain functions as a means of introducing to people the first murder that happened in the Bible. And at the same time, the similarity of both villains' crime is what being highlighted. By familiarizing a biblical event, the poet or the storyteller could act the smooth interpolation of the introduction of the religion, in addition to telling a story of murder. At other part, the narrator refers to Grendel as the God-cursed brute. In line 120 to 122, and human sorrow, suddenly then, the God-cursed brute was creating havoc. Greedy and grim, he grabbed 30 men. On later acts, where Grendel have been defeated, the poem speaks of his soul as heathen soul. The God-cursed fiend was the narrator's way of saying the force which opposed God. If God was good, then the ones opposing him were the evil. Thus, the role of Grendel here was the opposing force of God and good, and was read as the antagonist, and heathen in this context was used to refer to the character who strayed from the right belief. Greed. It might be arguable if we still say Beowulf was a good man after reading the scene where he was dying on his severe wounds with eyes directed to the treasure. It really is intriguing how Beowulf seemed to be uncharacteristically greedy towards such unheroic reason as treasure, as in line 2747 and forth. Away you go. I want to examine that ancient gold, gaze my fill on those cornered jewels. My going will be easier for having seen that treasure, a less troubled letting go of the life and lordship I have long maintained. However, it is later revealed that he did not simply want to see the treasure out of greed. The narrator quoted Beowulf saying that the dying hero actually wanted to make sure his sacrifice did not go into waste, and that the hoard was actually satisfying surely assured him that his people would prosper with it. This scene taught the readers the quality of generosity of a leader. In another word, a good king ought to have a generous heart and think of his people above himself. So, it is a glorified greed in the end. Christian philosophy. This is that wealth accumulated through the grace of God must be shared unselfishly. After Herod, the enormous mad hall had already been built, Hrothgar shared his wealth to the people of all ages. He acknowledged that his wealth came from God, and it is compulsory to share it to others unselfishly. Next, music, song or singing. Christians sing together during worships. St. Paul the Apostle tells that worshipping God together in song is meant to deepen the relationships we enjoy through the gospel. This happens in three ways. Remember God's word, respond to God's grace, and reflect God's glory. It is reflected in lines 89 to 92. Every day in the hall, the harp being struck, and the clear song of a skilled poet, telling with mastery of man's beginnings how the Almighty had made the earth. Aside from Christianization, we have found more supporting topics in Beowulf's poem. First is revenge. Revenge has always been a big part of human nature and is natural among the Germanic tribes. It is even considered an act of justice and honor. If one is to betray a person or do them wrong, that person will seek revenge. Just like karma, what comes around goes around. Revenge is an important value for the tribes. For example, if one tribe member kills a member from a different tribe, the losing tribe comes and takes revenge. The Germanic tribes were loyal to their people and would fight in order to avenge their fallen one. In Beowulf, Beowulf essentially took revenge for the Danes. Grendel was tearing apart the great hall and killing off all of the king's soldiers, Since the king could not battle Grendel, Beowulf decided to defeat Grendel for him. But because Beowulf killed Grendel, Grendel's mother decided to seek revenge too for her fallen son. Beowulf's battles are similar to that of the story of Finnsburg, which is another story relating to revenge. In Finnsburg, the Danes and the Frisians are joined by a marriage. But for no reason, the Frisians attack the Danes and kill off many of the soldiers. The king's right-hand man, Hengist, is set on revenge for their fallen soldiers. In the end, the Danes take revenge and return home with riches. Beowulf's journey is tied in with this story. Grendel represents the Frisians, while the Danes represent the half-Danes, and Beowulf represents Hengist. Finnsburg's story is essentially a blood feud. Blood feuds are conflicts among different families. A great example of blood feuds is Romeo and Juliet. The Capulets and the Montagues are two noble families that did not like one another. The feud has lasted a long period of time and has created a tension among the people. And in the end, the feud ultimately causes both of their children's death. Revenge is honored throughout Beowulf because the Germanic tribes are based off battle, and oftentimes soldiers are killed in battle. That is the reason why blood feuds are common among the tribes. The tribes were closely tied to one another, and each tribe had a close community. Everyone knew each other and considered one another family. If someone is killed, it is only reasonable to want to take revenge on the one that killed him or her.
Okay, well, talking about Beowulf in another part, that is heroism. The English epic poem Beowulf is definitely a great portrayal of a hero. The bravery, loyalty, determination in defeating the enemy is demonstrated by the protagonist, Beowulf. The courage is shown thrice in the poem. It is when he tried to slaughter the monster, the mother of the monster, and also the dragon. The greatness, the mightiness of Beowulf can also be seen when the other wrote, "There was no one like him alive. In his day, he was the mightiest man on earth, high-born and powerful." That is in line 196 until 198. His first act of bravery is when Beowulf came all the way to Herod to offer some help in defeating the monster. "I came to proffer my wholehearted help and counsel. I can show the wise Hrothgar a way to defeat his enemy and find respite." That is in line 276 until 280. The monster itself is called Grendel, and the Grendel had been destroying Herod, and the king of Herod, Hrothgar, was indeed in need of some hand. Beowulf came down to hunt Grendel and eventually defeated him. It was shown in line 814 until 816, when the author wrote, "The monster's whole body was in pain. A tremendous wound appeared on his shoulder, and the victory was written down in line 817 until 820. Beowulf was granted the glory of winning. Grendel was driven under the fen banks, fatally hurt to his desolate lair. Beowulf was in glory for so many years because of his mightiness and power." Upon knowing about her son's death, Grendel's mother came to take revenge, and it was written in line 1255 until 1259. That it became clear, obvious to everyone, once the fight was over, that an avenger lurked and was still alive, grimly biding time. Grendel's mother, monstrous, hell-bright, brooded on her wrongs. Beowulf, again, was asked for help, and he showed his courage, trying to hunt Grendel's mother down. Beowulf defeated the mother of cutting her head off, and it was shown in line 1588 until 1590. The body kept at the stroke dealt to it after that. Beowulf cut the corpse's head off. Everyone has heard of Beowulf's victory, and it once again showed his courageous self. He and his warriors were given an abundance of treasure as an award of their heroic act, of their bravery and their loyalty. He was in triumph, winning over Grendel's mother. Line 1704 until 1705 said that your fame has gone far and wide. You are known everywhere. The last act of Beowulf's heroism is when he tried to fight against the dragon. He showed his strong determination and put his life at stake to kill the dragon. His warriors fled away in terror upon seeing the form of the dragon, and yet Beowulf still fought until the end. One of his loyal warriors, Hygelac, helped him in defeating the dragon, but alas, Beowulf was beaten and killed by the poison that the dragon left. The act of bravery not only came from Beowulf himself. His fellow man, Hygelac, proved his bravery and loyalty rather than other warriors who flee from the dragon and left Beowulf with the dragon, even when Beowulf are obviously will lose at the battle. Beowulf has fought and won at a lot of battles with so much bravery and mightiness in him, and he is so worthy of a name hero. Let's move on to another part of Beowulf, that is kinship. First, the Anglo-Saxons always put their kin and their king before anything else. They have a motto that is death before dishonor. They promised to protect their kin and king from enemy no matter what, even if have to sacrifice their own lives, as it proved in the poem. But the Earl troops leader was not inclined to allow his color to depart alive. He did not consider that life of much account to anyone, anywhere. Time and again, Beowulf's warriors worked to defend their lord's life, laying about them as best they could with their ancestral bloods. Second point is Beowulf definitely starts his interactions with the dance on the right foot, showing respect and the deference, as said in the poem in line 344 until 347. Beowulf is my name. I wish to proclaim to the son of Halfdane, that famed sovereign, my errand to your lord, if he wishes to grant us that we, the fiercest one, might greet him. And the next point is they respect each other as Hrothgar and said, I used to know him when I was a young boy. His father before him was called Ecgtheow. Hrethel the Great gave Ecgtheow. Hrethel the Great gave Ecgtheow his daughter in marriage. This man is their son, here to follow up an old friendship.
So guys, that's all for the literature impact of Beowulf. I hope you liked the video and thank you so much for watching. See you!